Look, oh, Trump is back. I knew when I heard that Trump had spoken at the National Association of Black Journalists, I said, oh, it's going to be on. And so I heard in the grapevine, they said it was horrible. It was just terrible. And I knew, I said, I've got to hear it. I've got to hear it. And so I'm going to react to this video of Trump at the National Association of Black Journalists. And I don't know if I'm going to go over the whole thing because I think it's kind of, I don't know, 40 minutes. It's long. We'll see. We'll see. But I looked at the first 5 or 6 minutes or whatever, and I was cracking up. That's one thing about Trump is if he is elected, we'll go again. Every single day there is a quote because every single day Trump's gonna get into it with somebody. All right, now so anyway, so let's get on. And you know, I gotta say this. I just started this channel and I have 2 videos on there so far, and guess who they are of? It's Trump. I wasn't trying to do that. It's just that, well, the name of the channel is Christianity and American Culture. Well, the man got shot at. You couldn't ignore that. Then I read this article about the Democrats, you know, 1/3 of the Democrats happy that the man didn't get shot. I'm like, well, I got to talk about that. Then I hear about this man going at it with the black journalist. I'm like, come on, man. So Trump has taken over my state. I'm not going to let him take over my channel now. Just because he got the first 3. There's got to be something else out there. All right. So anyway, all right, let's see what Trump has to say. Let me get us over there. Oh,
we have a lot to get to, and we do not want to waste any time. So let's bring out the former president of the United States, the Republican nominee for president, former President Donald Trump.
Look at him, watch that guy walk. Back daddy. Watch this, man.
Hi, Mr. Trump. Rachel Scott, BBC. Thank you. How are you? How are you? Mr. President, we so appreciate you giving us an hour of your time. I want to start by addressing the elephant in the room, sir. A lot of people did not think it was appropriate for you to be here today. You have pushed false claims about some of your rivals.
What? Right here. I just got to say right here. That's not a good start, is it? I mean, immediately, some people don't want you here. Oh my God. You know how this man is. All right, here we go.
From Nikki Haley to former President Barack Obama, saying that they were not born in the United States, which is not true. You have told 4 congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from. You have used words like animal and rabbit to describe black district attorneys. You've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you, why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Okay. Now, some of you may have seen this interview. Those of you who have not, how do you think this man is going to respond? Knowing Donald Trump, he doesn't back down from anything. How do you think he's going to respond? Let's find out.
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question so in such a horrible manner. First question. You don't even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network. And I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. I love the black population of this country. I've done so much for the black population of this country, including employment, including opportunity zones with Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, which is one of the greatest programs ever for black workers and black entrepreneurs. I've done so much. And, you know, and I say this, historically black colleges and universities were out of money. They were stone cold broke, and I saved them and I gave them long-term financing.
You know, two things. One, he's right. He came there in good faith, and you don't have to be a Trump supporter to say this. This is just being honest, right, and objective. This man shows up knowing he is going in a hostile environment, and this lady comes at him immediately. I'm not a journalist, but I think that's not a good move. That is not how you interview somebody. Now, I'm not a journalist, but I've seen a whole lot of interviews of journalists, professional journalists, asking people things, even interviewing people that they disagree with, but they were able to ask questions in a more professional way. Where this lady, I feel she messed up. But something here about that he said about the black universities, I believe what he's saying is true about that. You can fact check me on this. I can't be dogmatic about it, but it seems like I recall him doing some good things for historically black universities and colleges. Anyway, let's go on.
And nobody else was doing it. I think it's a very rude introduction. I don't know exactly why you would do something like that. And let me go a step further. I was invited here and I was told my opponent, whether it was Biden or Kamala, I was told my opponent was going to be here. It turned out my opponent isn't here. You invited me under false pretense. And then you said, you can't do it with Zoom. Well, where's Zoom? She's going to do it with Zoom and she's not coming. And then you were half an hour late, just so we understand. I have too much respect for you to be late. They couldn't get their equipment working or something was
Mr. President,
wrong.
I would love
I think
if you
it's
can
a
answer
very
the question
nasty
on your rhetoric
question.
and why you
I have
believe that
answered
black
the
voters
question.
should trust you with another
I
4
have
years.
been the best president for the black population since Abraham Lincoln. That's my answer.
Better than President.
Nothing wrong with his ego. So, but here's the deal. He said, now what is one of the stereotypes of black people? Being late, right? And so this man, you cannot be, I think he said like a half an hour late, be that the former president of the United States is showing up to be interviewed by you and you are late. That's not good. Anyway, let's go on.
And Johnson, who signed the Voting Rights Act.
For you to start off a question and answer period, especially when you're 35 minutes late because you couldn't get your equipment to work in such a hostile manner, I think it's a disgrace.
Let me just ask a follow-up, sir, and then we'll move on to other questions here. Some of your own supporters, including Republicans on Capitol Hill, have labeled Vice President Kamala Harris, who is the first Black and Asian American woman to serve as vice president and be on a major party ticket, as a DEI hire. Is that acceptable language to you? And will you tell those Republicans and those supporters to stop it?
How do you define DEI? Go ahead. How do you define
diversity, equity, inclusion?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Is that what your definition?
That is
give me a
literally
definition
the words.
then. Would you give me a definition
DEI.
of that?
No, what he's asking for is her definition of DEI, not what DEI stands for. He's not asking for the acronym. He's saying, okay, we know what DEI stands for, but diversity, equity, inclusion. But you give me a real life example. You tell me what you feel about it, okay? And then I'll answer your question based upon how you define it. Because a lot of times when you are in a debate, someone will ask you a question about something and you answer it, but you're answering based upon your context of it, and they, and perhaps even their constituents, their audience, they are interpreting what you say based upon their context. So you're bypassing, and he's trying to prevent that. I sound like an apologist for Donald Trump, don't I? No, I am apologist for truth. Okay, and I really want to be objective on my channel. So, and this is what I see here. This lady is nasty. This is remember he called who did he call? He called Hillary nasty one time in the debate. He said, "Oh, you're nasty one." So anyway, Okay, let's
Give me a
see.
definition.
Sir, I'm asking you a question,
No,
a
you
very
have to
direct
define
question.
it. Define it for me, if you
I
would.
just defined it, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a black woman?
Well, I can say no. I think it's maybe a little bit different. So, I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly, very much, and she was.
Let me answer that. She asked a question about Kamala Harris on the ticket. Not of course she's on the ticket now as president, but I believe Joe Biden said before he selected her that someone was going to be chosen based upon that criteria of being, I think he said female. He may have even said black, I don't know. But it seems to me that when he was running for president, he did lay out the category or the qualification of DEI. He may not have used the acronym, but I believe he did in fact state that whoever he chose was going to be a woman. He may have even said a black woman. I don't know. But anyway, so that would be yeah. So if she's asking him, do you believe she was chosen because of that? I believe Joe Biden said she was chosen because of that. And you can check me on that, but I believe he said that.
Number one, I committed that if I'm elected president, have an opportunity to appoint someone to the courts, I'll appoint the first black woman to the courts. It's required that they have representation now. It's long overdue. Secondly, if I'm elected president, my cabinet, my administration will look like the country. And I commit that I will, in fact, I'll pick a woman to be vice president. There are a number of women who are qualified to be president tomorrow. I would pick a woman to be my vice president.
She was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She has always
But you know
identified
what?
as a black woman. She went to a historically black college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn and she became a black person.
Just to be clear, sir, do
And
you
I
believe
think
that she is
somebody should look into that too when you continue in a very hostile, nasty tone.
It's a direct question, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is a DEI hire, as some
I
Republicans
really
have
don't
said?
know. I mean, I really don't know. Could be. There are some, and there are plenty. I know this lady right over there, Harris, is a fantastic person who just interviewed me at length. And we had a great interview, I think, and I heard you got very good ratings on that.
Well,
interview.
you told me it was the longest one of your life, so we had a good discussion. Look, I want to talk about why you're here today. I mean, it is not lost on us how divided we are as a country. And as you were coming today, we really got to see that we are divided along the lines of race, along the lines of gender. And there is this question of, in this moment where we are, why come here? What is your message today?
My message is to stop people from invading our country that are taking, frankly, a lot of problems with it. But one of the big problems, and a lot of the journalists in this room I know and I have great respect for, a lot of the journalists in this room are black. I will tell you that coming.
No. So that.
Sometimes I don't know what to think about this dude.
Dork.
Does he know where he is?
Yeah, I know. So the reason why they're laughing is because Trump said a lot of the journalists in this room are black. Well, this is the National Association of Black Journalists, right? So that's why a lot of them are black. Okay.
From the border are millions and millions of people that happen to be taking black jobs. You had the best.
What exactly is a black job, sir?
A black job is anybody that has a job. That's what it is. Anybody that has a job.
All right.
And
Mr. President,
they're taking the employment away from black people. They're coming in, they're invading. It's an invasion of millions of people, probably 15, 16, 17 million people. I have a feeling it's much more than that. And everybody's been seeing what's happened. The first group of people, the black population, is affected most by that. And Kamala is allowing it to happen. She's the border czar. She's the worst border czar in the history of the world. There's never been a border czar like this. She's never even essentially been. She said she was there once, but not the right part of the border. So she was a border czar. She's done a horrible job. These people are coming into our country and they're taking black jobs and Hispanic jobs. And frankly, they're taking union jobs. Unions are being very badly affected by all of the millions of people that are pouring into our country. And one thing, as we discussed, many of these people are coming in from mental institutions, from prisons, from jails. They're gang members in other countries. Other countries are setting loose their prisoners. They're opening up their prisons and their mental institutions, and they're taking their bad people, drug dealers, gang members, and they're bringing them into the United States. And by the way, their crime rate is going down, and our crime rate is going to be a disaster.
Mr. President, I want to get into how you address some of the issues with Black communities. And I say that plural because we live in communities of color that are different. We're not all the same. We don't vote the same. We don't think the same.
Sure.
It's not monolithic. So as you come here today, I want to talk about something that bursts. And this is the weight of the inflation on this country right now.
Let me say something right quick. This lady in the pink, I like her. She's sounds like she's a real journalist. So one thing she said about Black people, she said we're not a monolith. Dorky, you wouldn't know what that word means.
Yeah, but I got your mama's address.
But she says we're not a monolith. So we're not a block that all do the same thing. We don't all believe the same way. And I think I'm glad she said that. And a lot of people, well, I don't say a lot, but a lot more people are starting to turn, Black people are starting to turn towards Donald Trump because even though Donald Trump has a whole lot of rough edges, and there are some tendencies towards authoritarianism and kind of dictator tendencies, that people are looking past that. Now, I think it's a mistake to look past things like that, but they're looking past that and seeing a man who Black folks know with Donald Trump, he's not going to treat you. He's not going to coddle you, and so if any of us have gotten used to being coddled and just encouraged to be eternal victims, and the Democrat Party does do that with us, try to play on that, because both parties seek to divide and conquer. So I'm just talking about on the Democrat side. Some of the tricks that they use is to foment and perpetuate that sense of helplessness and hopelessness, and how we can never get ahead, right? Unless somebody comes up and help. Now, I'm not saying that there should not be any type of oversight of predatory practices or institutions or policies or anything like that, because I don't want to go, you can go to one extreme or the other. Just saying that this man here is a businessman, and there's a lot of Black people that are no longer seeing themselves as victims, and they resent being treated and approached as a victim. And so anyway, just wanted to bring that out. So I like what she said about us not being a monolith. So let's see what she says.
The nonprofit Money Management International recently released data from its mid-year analysis that we have found a 52% rise in people who are seeking counseling for being in credit debt. They're paying for food that is sky high on their credit cards, and now they can't pay that off. The credit counseling nonprofit MMI, as I said, is saying now that they've seen surges that they haven't seen since we were in a pandemic of people in financial trouble. Much of that falls on the shoulders of single moms, single Black moms, when you look statistically. Yeah. How do you turn it around? What's your plan for the Black community when it comes to money?
So, first of all, it's very hard to hear you for whatever reason because of the fact that they have bad equipment, because I guess, this woman was unable to get the right equipment. But it's very hard for me to hear you, but I can hear every other word. It's very difficult, actually. But so I don't know if they can fix it or do something with it, but I'll do the best I can with it. The inflation is absolutely destroying our middle class, our working class, virtually every class. Inflation is a disaster in our country. Inflation is a country buster. It breaks every country. And we had, in my opinion, the worst inflation we've had. They say it's 58 years, but I think it's much more than that. It's been devastating. And if you just take a look at a lot of things they don't include, like interest rates. Interest rates went from 2.4% to 10%, and you can't get the money. People can't buy houses. They no longer have the American dream. Young people, young Black people, they don't have the American dream anymore. They can't buy a house. They can't borrow the money because of the cost of the money. They can't buy it because of the cost of housing, because of the cost to build it, because of inflation. Inflation is a disaster, and it's destroying our country, and it's destroying the Black community probably as much or more.
So what do you do?
Than any.
What's your plan?
You know what we have to do? We have to bring down the cost of energy, and that's.
Let me say something right here. This deal right here, I want you to see the unfairness of the question. Now, it would be unfair if they were asking Joe Biden this, and the Republicans have tried to put this on him. You sit up there and ask a president, what's your plan to help the Black community in times of great inflation? What do you mean? The plan to help the Black community is the same as the plan to help the white community or the Chinese or anybody else that happens to be American. When you try to fight inflation, look, inflation is a macro problem. You don't fix inflation in regions in the country. You fix inflation nationally. So to ask this man, what's your plan to fix inflation in the Black community? It is asking of a president, whether it's Trump, Biden, or any Kamala or anybody else, is asking them something that is unrealistic. Whoever that person is, they can't fix a macro problem for a segment of the population. So that's a bad question. The other thing is, and here's why I would never be elected president. You ask me something like that, like, first of all, you pull out single Black females with kids and say, well, you got these single Black mamas and the parent, and what's your plan to help them? Well, the plan to help them goes way beyond the price of food going up or the price of gas going up. You go back to our family unit. Remember, my channel is Christianity and American culture. And so my perspective of this, and it's not just biblical, this is common sense, and this is statistically proven that when you have kids with no husband, you are poorer. That's not a spiritual statement. That is an economic fact. It's not easy being smart. One of the best ways to know why you believe what you believe and to know what you're talking about is to read. And one of the best ways to do that is to get a free trial subscription to listen to audiobooks on Audible. What's Audible? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let me show you. Okay, when you click the link in the video description, it's going to take you to this page here, and that's where the magic happens. You are looking for the Audible Premium Plus plan. So Audible is an Amazon subscription service to the world's largest source of audiobooks and podcasts. I've had the Premium Plus subscription now for 10 years. I think you'll love it. Here's how it works. You sign up for the free 30-day trial to the Premium Plus subscription. You get an initial free credit that you can use for any audiobook, no matter how long it is, 4 hours or 40 hours. If you're in Amazon Prime and this is your first trial offer, you get 2 initial book credits. Hey, here's an idea. Totally ethical. There's a big fat book you've been wanting. Sign up for the free trial offer. Use the credit to get your book. Hopefully, you'll love Audible as much as I do and you'll stay. But if not, cancel before the deadline. You keep the book and it costs you nothing. There's really no reason not to try this out. You can't lose. Click my link in the description. And so if you have a lifestyle where single motherhood is celebrated, and it is celebrated, not just in the Black community, but in the white community as well. But in the Black community, it's like it is to be expected. And so I think whoever is asked that question up there, you don't start at the top. You got to start also at behavior, because I guarantee you the family, the man and the woman that's together, assuming they're both are working, the man and the woman that's together with 1 or 2 kids are a lot better off than the single Black woman with 1 or 2 kids. So I think the question was given to, first of all, it should never have been given to him or any other president, because it's not their responsibility to try to fix a problem that can only be fixed at the macro level, the national level. And then you tell them or ask the man, how are you going to fix it for the single Black? You're not. That's ridiculous. Can you make interest rates come down for the single Black mom? Now, if interest rates come down, the single Black mom, and she can get her a lower interest rate, but you can't make it come down for that segment. So this is an unfair question to him or any other president. The other thing is, when you have people in the Black community who are looking for politicians to fix self-inflicted wounds, to fix problems that we start and that we sustain and that we celebrate, and then we turn around and say, what are you going to do to fix it? That is lunacy. That's crazy. So when you talk about people being affected by inflation, now it's affecting all of us, but the poorer you are when inflation hits, the harder you are hit. And there are various reasons for people being poor. Now, of course, on the Republican side, they pretend like there are no poor in America, or if you're poor, then you're a bum. And that's totally false. But you've got people in America that are spendthrifts. They don't use their money properly, right? They are gambling it away on. Have you ever gone to the convenience store and you see folks in there buying $30-$40 worth of raffle tickets? That's crazy. But anyway, I'm on a tangent here. But that lady, it's her fault. She asked this man an unfair question.
Going to bring down the cost of inflation. This was all started with a bad energy policy by Joe Biden. By the way, just if I might, I was running against a man named Biden. You probably saw that. And he was losing very badly in the polls. And then he had a rather bad debate. I would say it was a bad debate. I would say it was one of the worst debates in history. And his poll numbers crashed. And instead of saying, let's keep going, and maybe something happens the other way, they said, oh, we're going to replace him. Let's just replace him. That's like you're in a fight, a prize fighter's in a fight. He's not doing where you say, let's bring in another fighter. So our whole campaign was steered toward him. And now we have to steer toward him. But ultimately, it's the same, because they have bad policy. They have policies of open borders, unbelievable open borders, horrible energy policies. They want to get rid of, as you say, gasoline in cars. They want to get rid of oil. They want to get rid of efficient efficient heating.
Mr. President.
Environmentally, what they're doing is killing our country. They're absolutely destroying our country. But the inflation is the thing that's hurting the black worker, the black population, and every other population within our country. Inflation is the worst it's been, I think, in over 100 years. And they'll fact check it. They'll say it's only 58. Whatever it may be, they don't add all the numbers. They don't add the really bad numbers, and you can check that too. But inflation, Harris, is absolutely destroying this country and the people in our country. Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
President, can I ask you another question
Yes,
that is also impacting Black Americans?
And that's very clear now. Good.
I'm sorry?
It's very clear. I hear you.
Okay. So Sonia Massey, someone from Illinois, an unarmed Black woman, was shot the other day in her home by a deputy sheriff. The deputy has since been charged with murder. You've said police would get immunity from prosecution if you win. Why should someone like that officer have immunity, in your opinion?
Immunity?
Immunity.
I don't know the exact case, but I saw something, and it didn't look good to me. It didn't look good to me. Are you talking with the water, right?
Yeah, well, police unions are not backing this person either.
Okay.
But again,
they're going to be charging the officer? I guess they're charging the officer.
So why should he receive immunity?
Well, he might not. I mean, it depends. It depends on what happens. I'm talking about people that are much different cases than that. We need people to protect ourselves. And by the way, in Chicago, as an example, a few weeks ago, July 4th weekend, they had 117 shootings and 17 deaths. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. We need to have our police officers have the respect and dignity back. In this particular case, I saw something that didn't look good to me. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all.
So can you get a little more specific back to the immunity question? Who would make those
Well, right now, for the most part, people are protected by their unions, by their police unions, or by their police departments. But I'm saying if I felt, or if a group of people would feel that somebody was being unfairly prosecuted because the person did a good job maybe with crime, or made a mistake, an innocent mistake. There's a big difference between being a bad person and making an innocent mistake. But if somebody made an innocent mistake, I would want to help that person.
What would those exceptions be? What would determine
you
an
go
innocent
after
mistake?
somebody and it's a very close call and it's very dangerous. And they have the policeman's life and woman is a very difficult thing.
I'm going to interrupt on this here because this is a good line of questioning here because, police officers have an incredibly difficult job to do. But man, folks getting shot down. I don't know the whole deal with this lady getting shot in her house with some water, but the little bit I saw did not look good. But that's just one case. Look, there's going to be many more cases, and I think it's good that she's asking Trump about this. What do you feel about police officers just across the board getting immunity? But it sounds like he's providing some caveats right there. Now, in the past, I'll be honest with you. In the past, I have had problems with hearing how he sounded to me like he had a cavalier attitude towards. Remember last time when he was running for president, he was cracking jokes about police brutality, and I'm like, that's not funny to me. That could be funny to a white dude someplace up in the suburbs, but as a black man in America, I don't find that funny at all. And I know that white cops beat up white people and black people too, but it just seems to me that proportionately, that when it comes down to the statistical probabilities, that if I am driving down the street at 1 o'clock in the morning and a police car pulls me over, at that moment, it probably would be a lot safer for me to have a white face than a black face, and that's I hate to have to say that, but we're here in America, and we've had some very bad experiences. So, but at the same time, I'm not one of those who, kick out the police and defund the police, because that's nuts. Did you hear? I heard the other day, I was listening to a video, and Sandra Bullock. Now, I hope this wasn't some kind of hoax. Didn't seem like it was a hoax. Sandra Bullock is calling 911 in her house because somebody's broken into her house. I hope this is not some super old video either, because I'm scrolling through looking at my luck. It'll be something that happened 10 years ago. But anyway, so she is holed up in a safe room now in her house, and she says somebody has broken in. And so the cops have her on the phone. They said, what's your name? And she says, Sandra Bullock, right? And so they're talking to her while while the cops are on the wall. I think he asked her, did she have a weapon? And she says no. Well, there she is, no gun, right? Now, has she been a good Republican? She'd have lit that boy up who broke into the house. Now, I would hate if anybody have to get shot, whatever, but if it comes down to who is harmed as a process of elimination, I'd much rather it be the criminal breaking into the house than Miss Bullock in her house. There, of course, she was unarmed. But just bringing that up. Why did I bring that up? Oh yeah. Anyway, let's get back to this man here.
Thing, because sometimes you have less than a second to make a life and death decision, and sometimes very bad decisions are made. They're not made from an evil standpoint, but they're made from the standpoint of they made a mistake.
So I want to follow up really quickly. I find it interesting because you do talk about reining in prosecutors, especially when it comes to prosecutors that are prosecuting you. Why doesn't that skepticism apply to law enforcement?
Well, I've been prosecuted because I'm a political opponent of two people that have weaponized our justice system. I've been prosecuted. I just won the big case in Florida. Everyone said that was the biggest case. That was the most difficult case. And I just won it. Now, Biden has a similar case, except much worse. I was protected under the Presidential Records Act. Biden wasn't, because he wasn't president at the time. And he had 50 years worth of documents. And they ruled that he was incompetent, and therefore he shouldn't stand trial. And I said, isn't that something? He's incompetent and he can't stand trial, and yet he can be president. Isn't that nice?
Mr. President,
but they released him on the basis that he was incompetent. They said he had no memory, and he was a nice old guy, but he had no memory, and therefore we're not going to prosecute him.
Come on, man.
I won the case, and it got very little publicity. I didn't notice ABC doing any publicity on it, George.
We covered you extensively, sir. I'd
Slopodopoulos.
love to move over on to different
I didn't notice
topics
you
now.
do any publicity on it at all. I won the case, the biggest case. This is an attack on a political opponent. I have another one where I
Sir,
have
if you
a
don't mind, I'd
hostile
love
judge.
to. We have you for a limited time, sir. I'd love to move on to different
No,
topics.
excuse
if
you.
we
You're the
can.
one that held me up for 35 minutes, just so you understand.
If we can move on now to the state of the race, sir, I want to get back to the campaign.
Don't mess
Senator
with that
J.D.
man.
Vance is your running mate. He's had a lot of controversy lately, and I want to read you a few things that he has said in the past. He said the Democrats running the country are a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices they've made. And so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too. He's not talking here about how great it is to be a parent. He's attacking what he says are the choices people are making to not have children. Did you know that he had these views about people who do not have children before you picked him to be your running mate? And do you agree with him?
No, I know this. He is very family oriented, and he thinks family is a great thing. That doesn't mean he thinks that if you don't have a family, it's not. I know people with families. I know people with great families. I know people with very troubled families. And I also know people with no families. They didn't meet the right person. Things happen. You go through life, you don't meet the right person.
But he's not just talking
Excuse
about
me.
families here.
And
He also
some of
says that
those
people that don't have children should get less votes than
That's
those
all right.
that do.
I'm just speaking for myself.
that your
and I
campaign
think
position?
I'm speaking for him too. He strongly believes in family, but I know people with great families. I know people with not great families that don't have a family. And the people without the family are far better. They're superior in many cases, okay? He's not saying they're not. What he's saying is that he thinks the family experience is a very important thing. It's a very good thing. But that doesn't mean that if you grow up and you grow older and you don't meet somebody that would be wonderful to meet and would have been good, that's a bad thing. He's not saying that. My interpretation, you'll have to ask him actually, but my interpretation is he's strongly family oriented, but that doesn't mean if you don't have a family, there's something wrong with it.
Just
Mr.
one last
President?
point and then we'll move on. Just one of the bedrock principles of American life is one person, one vote. Senator J.D. Vance has suggested that someone who has children should have more votes than a person who does not have children. I just want to be clear here. Is that the position of your campaign?
Well, no, but it's not something I have ever heard before. I can tell you this. Right now you have illegal aliens coming into our country, many from prisons and many from mental institutions, and they want to give them votes. I don't think they should have votes. They came into our country illegally,
People
and
who
they're
are only
taking the
American
vote away
citizens
from
are
all
allowed
of the
to vote,
people in
sir.
this room that have been here a long time, that have worked hard, that in many cases, and you'll see this happening, if I'm not elected, you're going to see it happen. If I am, you're not going to have any problem. But you're going to see it happening a long time. You're going to see the people in this room and people outside of this room are going to be losing their jobs, the people that have come into this country illegally.
Mr. President, can we stay with just kind of the state of the race right now? Because I felt like that vice president question, candidate question was right in there with that. So let's talk about J.D. Vance for a little bit.
Hold on, let me. That's enough of that because they're still not through. There is. Can we see the? Oh my gosh! Look at okay. So I was trying to see if I could take a look at the comments. On the comments, it was pretty interesting to me. Let's see. Oh, they turned them off. Oh man. Doggone it. It must have been the other one. So I looked at one where the comments were, I mean, like 90% pro-Trump. And it was like this here is PBS. So I believe PBS is liberal. And I think the other one I saw it on was on ABC. And even though it was a Democrat platform, I mean, it seemed like all of the, well, at least overwhelmingly, the comments were pro-Trump, and they did not like that lady there in the blue. So anyway, look, I'm not going to go on and on because they still have a little bit more to go. But I thought this was, first of all, I thought it was funny, but at the same time, I thought it was informative. And you're able to see how unfair things are for any president. This lady in the blue, no, the one in the pink, although I do like her, and I mean, I don't know the lady, but I mean, her question, she seemed to be professional, unlike the lady in the blue, but the question still is unfair for any president, right? You know, how are you going to fix inflation for the single black lady with kids? Come on, man. So anyway, if Trump is elected, it's going to be something else. I'll tell you what, whoever is elected, I am going to be praying for them. And those of you who are Christians, this includes all of you Bible carrying, flag waving Republican Christians. If this man loses, then let's see your Christianity. Let's see if you truly are Christ-like. Don't try to bum rush the Capitol again, and don't try to have a coup. Don't try to take over the nation and form a dictatorship. Just have the spirit of Christ. If your guy loses, he loses. You being a Christian, set the example. Pray for whoever is the president. That's what the Bible says, right? Isn't that what Paul told Timothy? Pray for kings and for all who are in authority. And we know for a fact that the king who was in authority at that time was a pervert, a maniac, hated Christians. And yet he was telling the Christians, you need to pray for this person. You don't see any place in the New Testament where the apostles were out campaigning against the emperor, even though he was a horrible, horrible person. So let's see your Christianity if your guy loses. We'll see. The best person win. Either Trump wins or Kamala wins. Whoever is there as a child of God, we are supposed to pray for them, and we are supposed to be setting an example to the world. We're supposed to be the light of the world, a city sit on a hill, somebody or an entity, collective entity that the world can see, that our nation can see, hey, those people have it together. Instead, they've been seeing the exact opposite. I hope to God, and I pray that instead of the church-driven strife and reviling and rancor and slander, that instead we will, yes, exercise our right to vote, but that we will be more in love with Christ and as our God rather than a particular party or man as our God. All right, folks, we'll talk to you later.